welcome to Mamafox Books Storytime Saturdays. You can come to this channel anytime to hear some awesome picture books read by me. I'm children's author Phoebe Fox, and today we're going to be reading Guitar Genius. This was written by Kim Tomsic and illustrated by Brett Helquist. Are you ready to learn all about Les Paul? Let's get started. Guitar Genius, How Les Paul Engineered the Solid Body Electric Guitar and Rocked the World. This book was published by Chronicle Books. In a three-story schoolhouse near the Fox River in Waukesha, Wisconsin, children scrambled into the music room. Tambourines shimmied, drums boomed, and bells clanged. Little Lester loved it all. The punchy pluck of banjo chords, the bright twinkle of piano keys, and the rise and fall of notes. Lester couldn't read the music sheets. Those tracks of squiggly lines and black dots didn't make sense, but it didn't matter. The fun part was all the sounds he could make. At his after-school piano lesson, his teacher sighed and pinned a note to his shirt. He skipped all the way home. "What does it say?" he asked, grinning from freckle to freckle. "Well," Lester's mother said gently, "it says you'll never be musical." Lester's shoulders sank. His eyes stung. "Don't listen to her," his mother tore the paper into tiny pieces. "You are going to be great." "Really? You can do anything you put your mind to." Lester thought about that. He did a lot of thinking. One day, while he was stuffing newspapers for his paper route, his buddy Harry showed up wrapping wire around an empty oatmeal can. "What are you doing, Harry?" "I'm building a crystal radio set." Well, that was interesting. So Lester gathered bits and parts and built his own crystal kit. Then he wired it right to the bed springs in his mattress for an antenna. Out from his home-built radio floated the warm drawl of guitar strings. Wowza! Lester saved his paper route earnings until he had enough to order his very own guitar. As Lester opened the box, his finger hit one of the guitar strings. "You already sound great, Lester," his mother said. He didn't. Lester fumbled through the chords. His fingers floundered over the fretboard. He even blundered through the B notes. His hands weren't big enough to reach all 6 strings, so he removed one. And then he practiced and practiced until he could play the guitar, the banjo, and even the harmonica. He sounded so slick that the manager of WTMJ invited him to play on the radio. "Mister," his mother said, "you don't know how good that sounds. I wish you could hear it like we do when you play on the radio." Lester wished that too, but he didn't own a recording device. It was the 1920s. Nobody he knew owned that sort of gadget. But that was okay. If he didn't have a recording device, he'd build one. He scrutinized the family's newfangled gizmos, tinkering in his mother's living room and his father's garage, and then he took everything apart. Things like the phonograph, the player piano, the telephone, and the radio. "Ma," his big brother hollered, "the kid's at it again." "Leave him alone, Ralph," his mother said. "He's just trying to learn." With a Cadillac flywheel, a dentist's belt, a nail, and other pieces and parts, he built a recording lathe so he could record his music. He made recordings of his guitar strumming and harmonica humming, and then he played them back to figure out how to make it sound better. Soon he could whip out all sorts of knee-slapping hillbilly melodies. Everybody said he was super. Lester rummaged through the garage until a brilliant idea zipped to mind: to take the tone arm off his father's phonograph player and jam the arm with the needle into the top of the guitar. He taped everything in place and wired it to his dad's radio. "Geez," Ralph said, staring at the ruined phonograph. "What'd you do that for?" "If it plays a phonograph record, it must play a guitar, right? They both vibrate." He snatched up the contraption and headed back to Beekman's barbecue to test it in front of a crowd. It worked! Harmonica sounds floated from one radio speaker, Bazooey, buzzleba. Guitar strumming amplified from the other radio speaker. Strum twang, strum twang. Everyone could hear. It was a smashing success. Almost. The problem was, it wasn't just the strings vibrating. The hollow space in the middle of the guitar vibrated too, making the speaker echo and screech. Lester knew he could play cleaner tones if he could just stop the guitar from vibrating. How though? It bamboozled him. He tried stuffing the hollow center with rags, socks, and a tablecloth. Nope. Next, he filled it with plaster of Paris. That was a bust and a ruined guitar. Lester had one more idea. He borrowed a wagon and convinced 4 friends to trek down a steep riverbank to the railroad tracks to help him. There he found a 2.5-foot piece of discarded steel rail. Back at home, he attached a guitar string to the rail and placed a telephone microphone under the string to pick up the sound vibrations. "Now what are you doing?" Ralph asked. "There's only one way to do this," Lester said. "Steel is dense and free of the vibrations I don't want." He gave his steel guitar a strum. Wah wah wah, bow chicka bow wow. "Yowzer," Ralph said. But his mom, who usually thought Lester was the cat's meow, shook her head and frowned. "That'll be the day when you see a cowboy sitting on a horse playing a railroad track." All the cowboys in the movies and traveling shows played guitars. Shucks, guitars and cowboys went together like peanut butter and jelly. If a cowboy wouldn't like the idea, then nobody would. Rats. But Lester pushed on. He tweaked and tinkered until he found a way to amplify his acoustic guitar without echo and feedback. Twang! It sounded okay. Good even. But it wasn't the rich sound he'd heard the steel rail play. He continued practicing, and when he turned 17, his mom let him take his act on the road. At 19 years old, he shortened his name from Lester Pulsfus to Les Paul. A few years after that, he formed a band called the Les Paul Trio. He played hillbilly music in the daytime as Rhubarb Red, and later learned blues and jazz at night as the Wizard of Waukesha. He swapped licks on his guitar in Chicago and then in New York beside some of the greatest musicians of all time. The new style of music got Les's mind ticking again. He loved the variety of sounds, the vibrato of clarinets, the badoom-tish of drums, the blurp of horns, but the twang of his guitar still wasn't loud enough. By the time Les turned 24, he'd become a hotsy-totsy musician. Even President Franklin D. Roosevelt loved his tunes when Les and his Razzmatazz Jazz Trio performed at the White House. Still, Les dreamed of a sound of that iron rail. How could he make an electric guitar that held a note like that? The question prickled and pestered in his mind until 1941, when he was 26 years old. He didn't have equipment or a workshop, nothing. But he was Red Hot Red, Rhubarb Red, and the Wizard of Waukesha. He could do anything he set his mind to. The night watchman of the Epiphany Guitar Factory let him in on Sundays. There he took a 4x4 piece of solid pine, hooked on an Epiphany neck, his own homemade pickups, and guitar strings. His solid body electric guitar looked like a log with strings on it, so he called it the Log. And when he gave it a strum, wah wah wah, bow chick bow wow, hot dog, Les said. It was the best thing he'd ever heard. He took it to a swanky nightclub to show off his new sound. But when he played the Log in front of a crowd, they didn't applaud. They didn't boo. Folks just looked at one another. What is that thing? Huh? How could the audience not hear what he heard? But Les's shoulders didn't sink. His eyes didn't get stingy. He did not give up. Maybe the audience hears with his eyes. Les returned to the Epiphany factory and told the watchman, "Everyone's confused. They don't know it's a guitar." "There," Les said. "Now it looks more like a guitar." But it wasn't a regular guitar. It was a solid body electric guitar. Wah wah wah, bow chicka bow wow. It purred, it hummed, it twanged in all the right ways. Finally, the sound he dreamed of had come alive. The crowd went wild. No matter what anyone told Les, he never stopped working on all kinds of sounds. His hard work earned him a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Grammy Hall of Fame, and many other halls of fame. He also received the Trustees Award from the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. At 89, Les Paul was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. When he walked on stage to receive his award, noise erupted and boomed from the crowd. Clappity clap clap, roar, huzzah, hurrah, hooray! Hot dog, Les thought. And that is the end of Guitar Genius. When you get a copy of this book, don't forget to look at the back where there's a message from the author. It gives you an opportunity to learn even more about Les Paul. I really hope you enjoyed Guitar Genius by Kim Tomsic. Please don't forget to subscribe to Mamafox Books Storytime Saturdays. Bye-bye.